We're gonna show you how we launched this product on Amazon and how it generated over $180,000 in sales in the first year.
Now, unlike a lot of videos, we're gonna provide full transparency into every single expense down to the dollar. We'll also share how much profit we made, our advertising performance, and the strategies that we used to find this product and launch it on Amazon.
So make sure you watch until the very end, because throughout this video, Lenny's gonna share some of the biggest mistakes we made over the past year.
But keep in mind, we did launch this product alongside our full-time jobs here at Jungle Scout. We actually only spent a few hours managing the business each week, so we really want you to understand that if we can do this, you can too. All right, Jake, what do you say we give the people what they want and dive right into the numbers?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's go over our main stats here. So we sold over 6,200 units across the year. We had a net margin of around 8.5% and an ROI of around about 31%. Then our net profit for the first year was a little over $15,000. What's really cool is that we can dive into how we got that number. So revenue is almost $180,000 worth of sales over this year. $160,000 of that was just the cost of goods sold. So that makes up most of the expenses. We also had about $4,000 in operating expenses, which we're gonna break down in a little more detail later on. And that left us with just over $15,000 of profit. All right, so let's address the elephant in the room. An 8% profit margin isn't all that great for selling a product on Amazon. However, keep in mind, this is averaging out the entire first year of selling. Let's take a look at how this net profit amount has changed over time. So we've got $0 here, and you can actually see that we were in the negative for the first 3 months. We actually lost about $5,000 in total over that first 3 months. But what's important to note is that if you keep going beyond that, you'll see that after that first 3 months, we never dipped below 0 again. And in fact, in this last period and never since then have we dropped below, I think, $3,000 profit. We never dropped below $3,000 profit per month.
Exactly.
Now, we truly believe that the reason we are profitable now is because we lost a lot of money in that first 3 months. So we've talked about our launch plan before, but this included doing things like having a very steep discount on our product, as well as utilizing coupons, utilizing PPC. Our price point by the time we added all these discounts was around about $20. And so that helped us sell a lot of units to gain those initial sales and initial reviews. Today, we're now selling at about $33, so we're selling at a much higher price point, and we've also been able to cut back some of our PPC spend. All these things together mean that we are a lot more profitable today. So let's look at 3 more recent months to get an idea of how profitable we are today. So looking at the months of January through to the end of March, you can see that we've sold 1,500 units. Our net margin has actually increased about 10%. Our ROI has actually increased about 34% when compared to the 3 months prior to that. Now, it's super interesting to see that the number of units we sold actually went down nearly 40%. But we can dive into that a little bit deeper. Here on the right, we can see the current period, and next to that, this is the prior 3 months that we're comparing it to. So you can actually see that we sold about $20,000 less product in the months of January to March versus the previous 3 months. So about $20,000 less. However, we actually made nearly $2,000 more in profit, which is actually crazy. So we made more profit by selling less. This can be explained by looking at our cost differences between these 2 periods. You'll see in these last 3 months, we've spent $5,000 less in PPC and $8,000 less in FBA order fees. This is the result of optimizing our advertising campaigns to spend more efficiently and increasing our price so that each order brings back about 33% more ROI.
All right, now I want to bring us back to our last year's performance here.
Yep.
And if we go back to our net profit here, I wanted to just really call out our goals for the first 3 months. We're drastically different than our goals for the last 3 months.
Yes.
So we came into this launching our product, wanting to sell more products, like you said, and really increase our best-selling rank and increase the amount of reviews that we get. And that's why we lowered our price. That's why we went really heavy on advertising, and we're in a lot of cases losing money each month for those first 3 months.
Yes.
But if you compare our goals in those first 3 months to our goals in the last 3 months, we're now trying to make profit in our last 3 months. So that's the drastic change in goals. So if you're launching your product, if you have that mindset of, okay, my goal is to really increase my BSR, to really increase my product reviews, so that in a year from now or a couple months from now, I can focus on a profit-driven goal. So that was something I wanted to highlight there, as our goals were drastically different.
We could have a lot slower growth. If we'd been more conservative and didn't go as deep as we did with the discounts and just get all of those sales, we might still be profitable, but we probably wouldn't be making $3,000 per month. And we're selling 30, 40 units per day on a lot of days. We probably wouldn't be doing that well. So if you're watching this and trying to learn from this, I would, recommend something similar for you. You don't necessarily have to make as much of a loss as we did. We went really aggressive, but just keep in mind that it is most likely that you're going to lose some money in the first 2 to 3 months. And yeah, we would definitely recommend that because it's gonna help you down the track. We talked about this at the time of launching, but we didn't have the context that we do now where we can actually show the other side, and now you can actually see that what we were saying back then about losing all this money, it actually has paid off, and we've got the proof here. So I'm glad that you're reinforcing that point.
Yes.
But yeah, let's keep moving. Let's do a deep dive into our revenue.
Yeah, so we're gonna go over to the revenue chart here, and then let's now look at our revenue over the past year, which was just under 180,000, but 188,000 in sales. So if you break that down, we had just over 4,000 in refunds. I believe that was just over 140 refunds over the past year. That refund rate actually is pretty decent. It's just over 2%.
Okay.
And then we also had some charges here for promo rebates, about just under $5,000. So those are anytime we did a coupon or ran any type of discount, and that's the price difference that customers got off and saved.
So a lot of that probably would have been within that first 3 months, mostly, and then a few others spread out. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can even see up here, our promo units sold was just over 1,500 units. So yeah, a good chunk of our sales came from promo units sold early on in the year, like Lenny mentioned.
Okay.
Now, reimbursements, we got about $554 back. That's basically any time Amazon is refunding us for a portion of refunds that we got, or anytime they mishit on inventory, they'll refund you for that as well.
Right.
So very small amount there. Other revenue, we didn't have any, but of course, if you're selling off Amazon, this would be nice for you to come in and enter those sales that you get on Shopify or on Walmart. So we had none there, but that's where you would input that for a total revenue of just under 108,000.
Okay. So let's take a look at our revenue over time. Yes. So cool. So we were looking at monthly view. Now we're kind of looking at it at a daily view.
Yeah.
So what you'll see here is that you've got 0 revenue here. And the first big thing that stands out is that we actually had a few periods here where we were out of stock. Now, this is where I'm probably gonna talk about one of the first mistakes made, and that was not ordering enough inventory up front. We ordered 500 units to begin with, and I chose that number because it was testing the waters. I had a lot of fears about this. This was definitely a very competitive product.
Yes.
I really liked how much demand there was, so I felt like there was opportunity there, but was still worried about how competitive it was, so I wanted to start out with only 500 units.
Yeah.
However, we sold through those very, very quick in sort of the first month or so here. It was on April the 1st, I think, that I made another order of 2,000 units. So this was only a couple of days into selling, and seeing that this thing was selling like crazy, I realized, man, we've got to order new inventory immediately.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop us running out of stock, and you'll see that we're out of stock for about 2 months here, and then came back into stock in June. Now, here's again where I made the mistake that I made another order of 2,000 units, the third order now, on June 14th, a few days before we came into stock. In hindsight, I really wish I would have made that call, a couple of months sooner. And then again, the products started selling like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I made a 4th order around about June 30th. So a couple of weeks into selling here, I'm like, we really need more stock. So I ordered another 2,000 units, but again, we ran out of stock, and this time we were out of stock for about 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing was that as of around about October, we had 4,000 units that all came in. And from that point onwards, we've maintained, we've been in stock this entire time from October and until, you know, nearly halfway through this year. You know, if you think about it, there's about 5 months here that we were out of stock. We're making on average about $3,000 in profit per month.
Yeah.
That's like, what, $15,000 profit that we missed out on just by being out of stock. But not just that, think of all those sales could have been generating more reviews. So there's a lot of downsides to running out of stock, and I'd say that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made during the first year of this product.
Yeah, and I would also say too, it was a mistake technically not ordering a lot of inventory in the beginning, but it was a challenge as well.
Yeah.
I believe our inventory limits were under 500 for the first time we could send an inventory. And so while a mistake, I would say it's also a big challenge, both financially as well as with COVID in our limits.
In addition to that, the lead times and the shipment times, for those of you that were selling back then, it took extra long for these shipments to come in. And yeah, definitely the inventory limits was a big challenge at the time. So we talk about the first 500 units that sold here. The way that actually worked was I ordered 500 units that came here to the Jungle Scout office, but our inventory limits for this new product was only 200 units.
Yeah.
So I was only able to send in 200 units to begin with.
Crazy.
And then as soon as they sold through, or maybe the limit must have gone up a little bit, I was able to then quickly send in the next 300 units. And then we went out of stock. Then if we look here, this was about, you know, another 2,000 units, but again, I could only send in 1,800 units at once. And then we again had another couple of hundred units sitting here that had to be sent in separately just to get around these silly inventory limits. Yeah. There's definitely some mistakes made during this launch, but also just a lot of challenges in 2021, which I'm thankful that we're sort of the other side of.
All right, now let's get to our cost here. And this is what we spent over the past year. So if we look at our total cost here, about 29%, almost 30% of that was for our product cost. And this is the cost to manufacture the item. So just under 50,000 there, and then our supplier shipping there. So that was about 9 or 10% of our total cost went to our supplier shipping, getting it essentially from our manufacturer into the United States where we're selling. Now to get into Amazon, this is where the FBA inbound shipping comes from. It's a little bit less than 1% of our total cost, so it's not that much at all, but we did pay just under $500 to get it from the port into Amazon's FBA warehouses. All right, and then this miscellaneous cost here. So what this is for our instance here, this is our cost of getting Amazon to place our SKU labels on the product themselves. So we paid just under $2,000 to have Amazon slap our SKU labels on our products. Typically, our manufacturer would have done that themselves, but they didn't. So that was a 30-cent per unit charge for Amazon to do that as it arrived in their FBA warehouses. So you probably don't have to pay that amount, but we did per unit here.
Yeah, so this is probably like another moment where I can mention a mistake here where, you know, my preference is generally to have the FN SKU printed onto the custom packaging.
Yes.
That way no one ever has to put any stickers on. You're not being charged by Amazon to do it. However, I think at the time I was going through the brand registry process, and so I couldn't create I didn't want to create a listing until I'd gone through brand registry, so I couldn't create an FN SKU, but I wanted to get the packaging printed, and I was just in a hurry to get that done. So I got the packaging printed without an FN SKU. So we didn't have that on there to begin with, and so they printed out, I can't remember, 2,000 or 3,000 of the packaging without it. But what I would say is the mistake is that we really should do that now for some of our subsequent orders, because even now, a number of orders in, we're still paying Amazon 30 cents per unit, and obviously this is nearly a couple of $1,000s. So that's actually one of the next steps we're gonna take is redesigning that custom packaging to have the FN SKU on so that we're not paying that cost moving forward.
And then our order fees, which made up the majority of our cost. So if I expand this here, it was about 40% of our total costs went to FBA fees, such as our commission, which is your referral fee. Typically, it's like 10% of your product price. So that's what that is. And then the majority of that actually went to our fulfillment fee. So for Amazon to pick, pack, ship your products out to the customers, we paid altogether $63,000, $64,000 if you round up, in our order fees. Now, other cost here, this is also makes up a really large portion of our cost over the past year.
Yes.
So if we expand that, that's our FBA storage fees, which was over $3,000. And we pay that each month, but in here we have it again as our total that we paid throughout the last 12 months. And then our Jungle Scout Suite plan, so we charge that to our account here. And that is our Jungle Scout Suite plan there. And then Seller Central Professional plan priced at $40 a month. We added that here for the past 12 months. So that is our total cost over the past year. Now what that doesn't incorporate is our startup cost. So let's dive into that a little bit here.
Awesome.
All right, so what we got here is a startup cost of $2,700, and this doesn't include inventory. We'll get to that in a second. So our cost here, we break it down into a few things. So we had design, which is our logo here.
Yep, we had a logo contest with 99 designs.
99 designs, exactly. And then stock image. So that was the image that was put on the packaging.
Yes. So there was no further charges for the packaging because I managed to get a template from the supplier. As you can see, I did pay for the stock image that goes onto that packaging, but then I ended up doing the actual rest of the design work there. So no further costs for design.
Should have paid you an hourly fee there.
I know.
Okay, then $30 for our GS1 barcode. So that was very simple. We had one SKU, $30. If you just have one SKU, that's what it would be.
Yep.
Photography. So paid quite a bit for photography, but I don't think you should cheap out on photography. Yeah, this was a cost that I think you would pay 12 times over and again to get good images, and pay just under $1,000 there. So
yes, so yeah, that was using productphotography.com. We've used them before for previous products of the $1 Million Case Study. Like Jake said, they are a little more pricey. You can definitely find cheaper options, but we've used them before. They do a great job, so we went back to them because we're familiar. But yeah, again, you could save some money there if you wanted to.
Exactly. All right, now breaking down a little bit more samples. So of course, ordered samples cost about $100, which isn't that expensive actually to get it even shipped in to the United States from where we ordered it.
Yes.
And then trademark here. So
an important one.
So basically two separate fees here.
Yes.
About $900 to file the trademark, and then additional $500 to have an attorney search for it. That's essentially just to get it checked before you file it in case there are any errors, and it could save you some time and especially money as well. All right, now this $2,700 here doesn't include our first round of inventory. So to get our true startup costs, let's go over here and look at our inventory orders. So altogether, we spent just over $8,200 to start this business on Amazon. And that includes what we just showed you, as well as our first round of inventory. We have it marked here as order 1 and order 2 because technically we did send it into Amazon as 2 separate orders.
Yes.
But as you can see over here in the total cost column, altogether for that one order is $5,500. So add that to what we just mentioned earlier in our other startup costs, that will give us our total startup cost of $8,200. So under $10,000 we launched on Amazon. Now, what's interesting here is you look at some of these rows here, we have our manufacturing cost here that was really consistent, $7.55 to manufacture the product per unit. And then we have our Amazon label fee that we talked about here, which is 30 cents for Amazon to slap the label on there. And then our supplier shipping. So this was pretty...
That one's changed a little bit.
Changed. Average was $240 per unit, but it's gone up. And we'll talk about this here shortly, but when we send in more units, it's a lot cheaper to, or typically a little bit cheaper to send in your inventory. And then there's Amazon shipping here. So this, again, is to get our product sent into Amazon from the port here in the United States or a warehouse. Averaged out about 45 cents per unit. But you'll also notice you see some really huge swings here and some zeros.
So the difference here, and what made such a big difference from these earlier orders or shipments to this later one, is that for these earlier ones, we're actually using SPD, small parcel delivery. So when you're organizing for Amazon to pick up your product here in the US and take it into their warehouses, you essentially have 2 options. You have small parcel delivery, or SPD, and then you have LTL, or less than truckload. Basically, it means the difference between shipping cartons versus pallets. Okay, and typically, once your shipment is large enough, it's more cost effective using LTL and shipping pallets. So for these earlier orders, when I was getting it picked up from here at the Jungle Scout office, I was selecting SPD.
Yeah.
However, as we learnt from one of these more later shipments, it was actually way more cost effective using LTL. And so that's what we're gonna use in the future because it just worked out to be way more cost effective.
Yeah. And then you're probably wondering too why there's 2 blanks here for Amazon shipping. Well, that's because the supplier sent it directly into Amazon themselves. So it's baked into this supplier shipping cost here. So that's why we don't have any Amazon shipping cost there. Again, just baked into what the supplier sent into Amazon.
Yeah, so we can come over to this combined shipping and you'll see that what is kind of nice is that over time it has mostly come down.
Yeah.
But you will note that the cheaper ones have been when we have sent it directly into Amazon.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of sending direct into Amazon, having, starting selling in Australia and overseas. I've never had the option of really sending it to myself in the US, so it always made sense for me to send it directly into Amazon. And generally it will work out more cost effective. Again, coming back to the challenges of selling throughout the pandemic, we didn't have that luxury at the beginning because I wanted to order 500 units.
Yeah.
However, as you can see here, we only had a 200 unit limit. So I couldn't send in 500 direct to Amazon. So sent it to the office here and then just sent in 200 at a time, stored the rest until we could send in another 300 units. By our latest shipment, our limits have now gone up quite a bit, which means that we've been able to send in more entire shipments. So this 4,000 units here, we were able to send all of those in at once. Now to just wrap up this startup costs section, like you said, Jake, this is still under $10,000, and also keeping in mind that this is maybe a little bit more of an expensive product. If you look at our landed cost, it's a little bit over $10. If you were to find a product that's a little bit cheaper from that, $5 to $7, that's very possible. You might even be able to get a little bit lower than us, but this is very doable for anyone out there.
Okay, now the last thing we haven't talked about is our advertising performance. So to do that, we're actually gonna give you a sneak peek of a new Jungle Scout tool, Advertising Analytics. So this right here is our metrics for the past year on advertising. So we spent just over $32,000 there, brought in sales just under $54,000 at an ACoS of 60%. Now our total advertising cost of sale, which includes our total sales, is just under 20% at 17%. So a lot of people are probably looking at this like 60%, like that's not good at all. Like we could definitely improve on that, and we did. Lenny will get to that here shortly.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to show you our performance over the past year. We only spent $32,000. Some people might say that's a lot of money, but I think at 12 months, that's definitely not. And to get us to where we're at right now, $32,000 in spend, I think that's pretty doable for a lot of people.
Definitely, and like we showed you with the overall net margin, this is just averaging out all of, including all of our launch costs, which was certainly more expensive, and we'll get to, how we're doing today. But I think it'd be really interesting to take a look at a breakdown of our PPC and organic sales over the year. I think this part's really cool.
Yeah, so what we mentioned early on, guys, when we were first launching the product, our goal wasn't to make a lot of money profit-wise. Our goal was to get a ton of reviews, and to do that, we need to get a ton of sales. So in the beginning here, if we come down here to this total sales breakdown, we can see a split between our ad sales and organic sales. Looking at the first couple weeks, the majority of our sales came from advertising. And it stayed that way for a while, and eventually it tapered off because we had to stop advertising because we were running out of inventory.
Yes.
So you'll see that trend here kind of be consistent with this next round of inventory that we got in. We started heavy again with advertising, our ad sales really dominated, and then as we taper off to the end of that inventory, we had to slow down and we turned off our advertising. So all of our sales came from organic at some point. So where that's really interesting is we look at this third round here. When we finally stayed in stock, you'll see now in the last couple of months, most of our sales are organic. So what we did early on is paying off because we're able to lower our ad spend now and make more sales organically. And again, just bringing us back to our original goal. That was our goal of getting more reviews early on, and now it's to be more profit driven.
So now let's look at one of our recent months in terms of PPC and see how we're performing. So you can see here that everything has improved a lot. We've now got an ACOS of just over 40%, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
If we look at our tacos here, we're just under 10%, which is
better.
also much better. Then if we look across at our ad sales and ad spend, compared to the previous month, we've spent about 4% more in ad spend. So we're now starting to test out spending a little more now that we're becoming more and more profitable. But whilst we increased our ad spend by 4%, you'll see that the resulting sales actually increased by nearly 30%. So we're starting to make some real headway with our PPC campaigns and definitely making some improvements here. And another great view is to go down to the breakdown. Now we're gonna be looking at the daily performance here. And what we're seeing is that the majority of our sales are coming organically.
Yeah.
So the lighter color at the top is what makes up our PPC. And so we've got this really nice balance of PPC ad sales versus organic, where we're kind of getting all these sales for free.
Yeah, and this is exactly why we're saying we've become more profitable in the last couple of months, because most of our sales are coming from organic sales.
And so that kind of wraps up our year in review of our very first year selling the washable pee pads for dogs. And that kind of begs the question, what are we going to be doing next? Well, one of the things that we are currently doing is testing out different PPC campaigns, testing out some different types, some new keywords, doing lots of experiments in the PPC realm to see if we can keep making improvements and making it better. We're also having lots of other conversations. Do we want to sell different variations? What other improvements can we make to the product or the packaging, or what else can we do to improve the product or sell more of them? We're even considering, do we want to do another $1 million case study? We would love to hear from you. Would you like to see us launch a new product in a new season of the $1 million case study? If so, let us know in the comments. We definitely want to hear from you. Now, we're going to be moving into a live Q&A session. So if you've got any questions for us regarding what we covered today, let us know in the comments below, and we'll be here to answer your questions live.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring up this first question here. The question is, hey Jungle Scout, do you guys offer training programs? We do actually. Let me share my screen with you to show you where to find it. So if you're on the Jungle Scout pricing page here, you can view our packages or our standard plans, but in the packages section, if you scroll down, you'll see a Freedom Builder Bootcamp section here. So what this is you get 12 months here. I'll open it up so you can see and even zoom in for you guys. You get 12 months of Jungle Scout's professional plan. So the highest plan you can get with Jungle Scout, and as well as our Freedom Builder Bootcamp course. A total savings around $1,500 here, including both, again, the plan and the training course. So you have a bunch of courses that you can go through. Greg Mercer will walk through a lot of strategies with you, all the way from product research, supplier sourcing, to listing your product and launching on Amazon with ads. It's updated regularly as well, so it's some exclusive content that you can't get here on our YouTube channel. Definitely recommend checking out. However, I understand sometimes, if you're especially new to Jungle Scout, you might not want to dive right into this with this cost here, but what you can do is, if you're on the edge, go to the website. So it's freedombuilderbootcamp.com. And I'll maybe zoom, I can't really zoom in there, but if you go to freedombuilderbootcamp.com, you can sign up for a free training course here. It's a little webinar from Greg. Just enter your name and email, give me free access here if you hit that button. Greg will actually walk you through a free webinar. And then from there, you can decide whether it's right for you or not. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. Again, freedombuilderbootcamp.com, or coming over to the Jungle Scout pricing page, going to packages and signing up for Freedom Builder Bootcamp right here. So very good question. We do offer a lot of free training on our YouTube channel, but would certainly check this out if you can afford it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's see. What have we got next? Okay, Ahmed asks, if I'm a sole trader and I want to sell on Amazon US from outside of the USA, how do I get more information about taxes that I should pay? I'll start out with, definitely not a tax accountant, neither of us, in this slide for a past. And in terms of your personal taxes that you would pay, probably your best bet is to speak to an accountant in your country. It's probably going to vary a lot depending on which country which country you live in. So I definitely think you'd need to, consult for professional advice on that one.
Yeah.
Then, all right, actually on the topic of tax here, we've got a question from Jay. Is sales tax included in the revenue, but not listed in costs? Sorry, this is massively important.
Yeah.
I think we did, there was like maybe another question there about tax. So we didn't really dive into taxes here. As the good news is that Amazon collects sales tax on your behalf for, I think most states. There might be some that they don't still, but I think in the majority of states, Amazon collects that for you. Once upon a time they didn't, and it was a really strange gray area, and it was unknown whether, we as the sellers are responsible for collecting that, but Amazon does that. In terms of whether that was included in the revenue and not listed in the costs, that I'd actually need to double check. I think maybe it wasn't included in the revenue and not listed as a cost, but that's a good question. I'll have to check into that. But high level though, it's not something that we had to collect. So that's why we didn't talk about it in this particular video.
Yeah. Awesome. Bunch of great questions in here, guys. Keep asking just your questions. We'll be here for a little bit, so ask anything that's on your mind right now.
Cool. Do you want to grab one?
Yeah, let me pull one up here.
Yeah.
So this is a good question here also from Jay. The question is revenue net or gross? So let me show you again my screen here. I am going to pull up our Jungle Scout profit overview here for the last year. So revenue. So what we're looking at now is this revenue at the top, 179,000. That would be net. So our Amazon sales down here at just over 188,000, that would be our gross revenue. So once we take away, certain costs like, let me zoom in for you guys here, refunds and our promo rebates, which is the discounts that customers saved when we had a coupon or some sort of lightning deal active. Once we take away those two costs of about $8,000 to $9,000 there, that would give us our net revenue of just under $108,000. But great question there. Yeah.
All right, let's see, I'll bring up this one. Any QC at the manufacturer? Yeah, good question. So typically you've got the option of getting a inspection done, a supplier inspection done of your product. I'm trying to remember whether we actually got one. It is definitely best practice to get inspections done. Actually, I don't think we did for this product. And I think the reason that I made the decision at the time is just for speed's sake. I kind of wanted to just kind of get them shipped out and sent into Amazon as quickly as possible. And also, as we mentioned in the presentation, like myself in the early stages, and then when Jake came on, we were just doing this alongside of our full-time job here. So we had limited time to kind of work on this. So it was just more or less something I just didn't do at the time. But I would highly encourage everyone to get an inspection done of your product. These inspections get done at the warehouse where your product is being made at the manufacturer. And it's great to pick up on any issues there because, of course, once it gets sent into the United States, it's a lot harder to fix anything that's wrong. So I would highly recommend it. If we had have gotten a supplier inspection, which again I would recommend, that would have been sort of another sort of operating expense. Probably the absolute safest best practice would be to get an inspection every time you do a shipment, or maybe the in-between would be just doing it every other shipment or every few shipments, but it definitely is something to think about.
Definitely. Awesome. Let me pull up a question here. The daily gaming videos ask, can I start selling at 500 here? And you can, I will say, we started at our first round of inventory, as you saw in the video, was $5,200 for 500 units. And our COGS, our cost of goods sold, was about, what was it, just over $10 per unit?
Yeah, about $10.50, I think.
Yeah, it includes everything from shipping to the actual manufacturing of the product and Amazon slapping labels on them. So You could launch with just $500. Just, go into this understanding that you're gonna really test the waters and you're gonna be out of stock for a little bit until you can order more inventory. But that's okay. You don't need to start like we did with, I still believe $8,200 as a total startup cost, including our inventory, is pretty minimum. Anything under $10,000 is definitely achievable. However, you just need to understand that you are gonna be out of stock for a little bit, which is okay. And if you can just use that money that you get, so if you make $500, you sell 500 units, it might take you, a month or two to actually get that back in your bank account. Then you can order more inventory with it and rinse and repeat the cycle. So next time you're starting with $1,000. So you go from 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 and so on. So you certainly can start with little amount. I would try to get more if possible, but just know that you can start. Just be very minimal with your startup cost. You probably won't be able to get an LLC or do a lot of branding that we would recommend doing. But if you're just trying to get started, get the inventory out there, take the pictures yourself, be really, really scrappy. You could start with $500. Yeah.
Yeah, because we also get the question like, is it better to say like start with $500 or wait till you've got $2,000-$3,000 plus to get started? Typically, my general response is don't let anything stop you getting started. Like Jake said, be scrappy at the beginning and start with less. It's probably better to start sooner than to wait too long. And I think there is probably a certain point where it's like if you've only got $500 and it's the last $500 that you have and you're relying on that money, then I would say definitely don't do that. The caveat I would say is that always invest, because it's an investment, money that you can afford to lose. Don't ever go into this business with the last of your dollars that you're relying on, because then you're sort of then you start making short-term decisions that may not be the best thing for your business long term. Like you're focused on I need to make money back immediately because I got to eat in 2 months, versus being okay with that money being an investment and not getting it back for a longer period so that you can build a real business. So that's just one other thing there.
Yeah.
Just real quick before we go into the next question there, I just wanted to kind of jump back to your question, Jay, to clarify on tax. So, or specifically sales tax and, why we didn't include that. So the reason that that's not accounted for in Jungle Scout's revenue and then listed as a cost is because Amazon is the entity that collects that, and Amazon is the one that pays that sales tax. That pays that sales tax. So because Amazon is responsible for that, you as a seller don't need to you don't need that listed as a revenue and therefore a cost. It's not your revenue and cost. It's something that Amazon separately is collecting. So hopefully that clarifies your previous question.
Yeah. Awesome. There's a good question here we want to get to.
All right.
So the question from Chris here is, did you account for storage fees and the expenses? And we did. So let me again dive into my screen here on Profit Overview and show you our cost here. So we did account for this. What you're seeing here is our first year of expenses, excluding our startup costs. So we didn't include, all the photography and legal aspects that we showed in the video. So down here under other costs, our FBA storage fees averaged out, or for the past 12 months. So that would be, you'd be paying that monthly, of course, but you could do a quick calculation of basically $3,000 divided by 12 and see our average monthly storage fees there. So that was included. We also did want to include our Jungle Scout Suite plan. We really wanted this to be relatable, guys. And so because we use Jungle Scout, we should add that into our product cost here, so you guys understand if you are a Jungle Scout user, what that would cost and kind of how that affects your revenue and net profit. So and then again, our Seller Central Professional plan, we did the same thing. We times $39.99 a month for the professional plan, times that by 12, and that was our yearly cost there. So yes, storage fees were included.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to another question. Let's see. All right, so maybe I should go from the bottom or the top. Okay, actually, maybe we'll start from the top because that's easier. Jungle Scout, can you make the manufacturer slap on the label? Yes, you can. That's pretty common, or certainly in my experience, having sold a whole bunch of products in the past. I've quite often got the manufacturer to stick the label on. We didn't in our instance. And moving forward, we're going to do something that I think is even better, which we mentioned, and that is to get it printed directly onto the packaging so that no one has to stick a label on. So, but generally, if you're starting out, you can get the manufacturer to stick that label on, or you can pay Amazon 30 cents to do the same thing. All right, so another question here. Is it worth getting a trademark for $1,000 to $1,500? I'd say yes, it is definitely worth getting a trademark in order to get access to brand registry on Amazon. Over the last, I don't know, maybe almost a couple of years now, Amazon has been adding more and more features and benefits to brand registry. And yeah, it just opens up so many things, additional protection for your listing, the A+ content, which gives you additional images and a really beautiful layout on your image to help with conversion. It gives you access to videos. Yeah, I can't think of everything, but there's like so many different things that you get access to. You get access to like more like analytics and different tools in Seller Central.
I'd also say too, if you haven't started the process yet, I can speak from personal experience here. Using Amazon's IP Accelerator program is huge. So not only are you going to pay roughly that $1,000 to $1,500 for the trademark, but you're going to get access to brand registry benefits that Lenny just mentioned right away. So if you go the other route and you don't use the IP Accelerator program from Amazon's lawyers, you're going to have to wait typically over a year for that trademark to be approved, and then for Amazon to recognize that yes, you are trademarked. So here's all the benefits that you can get through brand registry. So if you're using their own program, again the IP Accelerator, you're using Amazon's lawyers, and because they have that information internally that you're applying for the trademark and it's been submitted, they'll give you access to it right away, so you can launch with brand registry and use all these features that help you, improve your conversion rate or add additional capabilities for advertising. So definitely recommend that program if you haven't started that process yet.
Yeah, and as a quick reminder, we paid, I think it was about $800 to get the trademark filed, and filed for one class of product, which was, I can't remember what the class was, but it would have been like dog or pet products or something.
Yeah.
Then we also paid an additional $500 for the lawyers to basically do a high-level search to make sure that we weren't infringing upon someone else's trademark. So that was, so that's about $1,300 that we spent in our instance. You don't have to do that $500 check, but I think it's probably a good idea, because otherwise you can go through this process and then get potentially rejected if there's some sort of conflict. But that's kind of an idea of our prices.
Yeah, you can probably estimate anywhere from $800 to $1,500 for brand registry altogether.
Cool. After your experience of running out of inventory, would you recommend starting with bigger quantities, or because of the limit on units, ordering smaller quantities more often? Out of those two options, I would generally side on having bigger quantities as much as possible.
Yeah.
I believe the limits aren't as, have been greatly dropped, I believe, for most sellers. So having these strict limitations that we did, last year and during 2020 aren't as much of an issue anymore. But yeah, generally having bigger quantities is better, and there are still, even without the limit restrictions, there are still delays with shipping and that sort of thing. So having more units is definitely better, I think, than having smaller orders.
Yeah, and if you can't get all, let's say you're just starting on Amazon like we did, typically your storage limits will be very small, like 500 units. And if you want to order 1,000, you're in a kind of predicament. You're like, well, how do I order that? Where's it go? You can, one, ask Amazon for an increase of your storage limits. Just create a case and ask them, hey, I have 1,000 units. I want to send them into FBA. Can I get increased units? So definitely ask Amazon if you haven't already for increased storage or restock limits. Second, consider sending half of the units into Amazon and half of them to a 3PL warehouse. So any facility that would store your inventory and then be able to send it into Amazon as you need it. I do think that's a huge advantage, especially when you're first launching, to have that inventory in the United States or the country you're selling in, just to get that into Amazon faster. But those would be my two biggest tips there.
Yeah, just as an idea, because I know that you did this recently. What sort of limit increase had you seen in your experience?
It was ridiculous. So I started selling a new product on Amazon Let's just call it like it was a couple months ago, but let's say the first of the month, just to be simple here. And then like 4 days later, I had 2 more SKUs that I wanted to send inventory in. So I just created a case and said, hey, Amazon, you gave me 500 storage limits and for standard size. I have 2,000 units I want to send in. Can I send them in? And they wrote back the next, or it might have been 2 days later, and they said, yeah, we'll increase it. And they increased it. I only asked for like 2,000 more, but they increased it like, I think I have 5,000 now. So they increased an additional 4,500. And that was insane. It was like, a 400% increase. So literally just asking them. You probably shouldn't ask them more than once. I think they said in their copy back, like, you qualify for a one-time storage limit increase. So that is a little like pro tip if you're needing more storage limits, especially in the beginning.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Just ask them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And be nice.
And you didn't have like heaps of sales history behind you or anything like that.
No, I maybe sold 20 units and then
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so did we run into any quality issues with our products? Thanks for the question, Shauna. Fortunately, we didn't. But back to my point earlier, it would be a really great idea to get a supplier inspection when you first start out to, make sure that there are no issues with your product. So I would recommend that. Maybe it was a mistake that we didn't do that, but unfortunately, we never had any quality issues. Jake over here is like, laptop is dying.
My battery's about to die. Sorry about that.
All good. All right, so, okay, let's just burn through some questions. Hi, my question is, can I sell from outside the US without opening a company in the US? Yes, you can. Lots of people sell from all over the world. I started selling from Australia and was selling on the US marketplace. You can start selling as an individual. You don't need a company, or you could set up potentially a company in your own country. That's something I would definitely, though, get legal advice on. Or you can, the other option is to set up, say, an LLC or a company in the US, where the marketplace is. But those are essentially your options, but yes, you can definitely do that.
Yeah, here's a good question here. This is a fun one. So the question here is, did you use Jungle Scout software to identify dog pads as a useful item to import and sell? I presume so. So yes, we only use Jungle Scout. So if you haven't seen the $1 Million Case Study series, we referenced it in this video. Go to our YouTube channel. If you go to the homepage, it's one of the playlists at the top there. Start from the beginning of season 5. You can go through the previous seasons as well, but for the most relevant and up-to-date information, I would start with season 5, the last one from last year. And you can see us start the process of product research. Lenny primarily was looking at a ton of different product ideas. And you can see exactly how he landed on the pea pads, all through Jungle Scout. So it was basically, there's a lot of factors, but demand and competition were big ones, as well as profitability, and some other factors like ease to sell. So definitely watch that playlist. It's a very, very instructional video series of us, basically showing you in real time how we did product research. So yes, definitely. Jungle Scout was the North Star for us of finding this product.
Yeah, and I think for reference, I think the first 3 episodes were product research.
Oh, cool, okay.
Maybe episode 4 was kind of deciding on the final one, if I remember. But but just watch the whole series. Just do that.
There's a whole episode or 2 on like supplier sourcing as well. So you'll see some of that information, a template that we sent out to suppliers. So check that out.
Yeah, lots of great stuff there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's bring up another question.
Okay. Maybe this guy
here. If you've got something, you can go for it.
How to get first reviews. I saw a similar question as well. So how we got our first reviews is, as we talked about in the beginning of this video, we lost, and this isn't how we got the reviews, but we actually did lose a couple $1,000s in the first 3 months because our pricing strategy was super, super low and competitive to our competitors who had hundreds of reviews. So we dropped our price. Our goal price was, $29.99 or $32.99.
Yeah, I think initially my goal was to kind of like sell it at $29.99, and then we discounted it from there.
Yeah, we started at $20. It might have been $19.99, but that was from coupons, a natural price reduction as well, and then we ran advertising heavy. And the whole idea was we don't care how much money we lose as long as it's not too much. As long as we can just get a ton of sales. Because the only way to get more reviews is to get more sales. There's no way around it. The other way of getting more reviews is increasing your review rate. So what that means is when someone buys your product, how can you increase the likelihood of them actually leaving a review, stopping what they're doing, and leaving a review. So Jungle Scout has a tool called Review Automation. If you're a user, I highly recommend checking it out. If you're not a user, go to our YouTube channel here and type in Review Automation and check it out for yourself. We recently did a new webinar on it. It was also recently updated as well.
Yeah.
So what that will do is it automatically send out review requests to your customers for you. So inside Seller Central, a lot of sellers don't know this, but there's a button you have to manually click each time you create an order. 5 days after that order was shipped to the customer, Amazon can send them an email saying, hey, did you like the product? Leave us your honest review on their page. So Jungle Scout will automate that process for you in bulk. So you never have to do it manually, and that increased our review rate significantly. I believe the average review rate on Amazon is 2 to 3%. So out of 100 people, 2 or 3 people will leave you a review is the average rate. But with us, I believe it was somewhere around 12%.
Yeah.
So 12 people out of 100 would leave us a review. So there's 2 factors there. Again, to sum it up, get more sales and do everything it can take to get there, lowering your price, strong advertising, things like coupons to really attract eyeballs to your listing, and then increase your review rate with a tool like Review Automation.
Yeah, and just search for how to get reviews on our YouTube channel, and you'll see the webinar that wasn't too long, a little bit earlier this year, where we dived into these strategies and how we got our first 500 reviews on this particular product. So definitely check that one out. Okay, here's kind of an interesting one. I know you're concentrating on Amazon. Would you consider selling on other places like eBay or Walmart, our own website? I don't know, what do you think?
I think we would. That's a dilemma because, I think it's, especially your first year, I think you should concentrate on one thing.
Yeah.
And right now, Amazon's the biggest thing. So it makes so much sense for us, our first year especially, to just nail Amazon, get it right. Because that's where everybody's buying their stuff, especially in the United States. But year 2 or year 3, even as you look to grow year over year, that's when I think another platform or marketplace like Walmart, you mentioned Etsy, for certain categories, Etsy would be great. eBay potentially, but we are selling a newer product that's not the lowest priced out there, because people can just buy a 1-pack and we're selling a 3-pack. So yeah, I think marketplace expansion is huge. But if you're just starting out, I would stick to the one thing. Just get one thing, just crush one thing.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, thanks for the question, Jill. Let's see.
So this is a good one here. Let's see. Matt asked, did you pull that organic/paid sales chart out of Seller Central, or did you create that yourself? So I didn't create it myself, but if we dive into Jungle Scout, I'll show you where we did get that from. So
cool. So let's take a look at our screen here.
Yeah, let's take a look at our screen. So inside Jungle Scout, this is a brand new tool. We're giving you another sneak peek here. We did it on the video. We're gonna do it here live. So over here under advertising, you see the little new badge. Ad analytics is what this tool is called. And you'll see a bunch of helpful information about your advertising analytics over the past however long you wanna look at it. And we're gonna do a webinar on this really soon here, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn the bell notification on so you know when we do post that webinar. We'll be really diving into this. But real quick, just to show you guys another sneak peek here, this is how we found our organic and paid sales over the past year. So I have it narrowed down to a weekly view here. If we wanted to, we could look at our monthly view here. But I like looking at the weekly one because you can just see right away, like when we first launched our product, the orange here is organic sales and the yellow is ad sales. And you see in the beginning, we really dominated with our ad sales. We had a day here where it was all organic sales. Or I'm sorry, this is week. So sorry, our first week was dominated by ad sales. And it sort of tapers off as we start running out of stock. And that story stays the same as we go through the second round of inventory that we got in. But then once we finally got our inventory at a consistent level, so we're not running out of stock, the rest of this time, basically the last 6 months of us selling, you can see the orange has really dominated our sales. So that means organic sales is starting to take over advertising sales. So that is all because, primarily because we built our listing. We currently have 500 reviews in our first year. We probably had a couple hundred within those first 6 months. So after you reach that 100 review count, organic sales will start, your conversion rate will increase dramatically. So we had to rely less on advertising or we could rely less on advertising and just really bank in on these organic sales. One, because again, our reviews were really high and it had social proof, and 2, because our bestseller ranking was a lot higher than we started, obviously. So our keywords were ranking organically more than they were in the start. So that's where we got this chart from. Advertising analytics, new tool in Jungle Scout. Stay tuned for it. We're excited about it.
Definitely. All right, so just going through and seeing there's a whole bunch of really great questions. Thanks everyone for keeping them coming. All right, I think we've lined up a few here. Okay, so this kind of harkens back to something we just spoke about. Aloha says, I want to launch a new product, but already utilize max storage capacity, half in Amazon and half on the way from the supplier. Is that possible for Amazon to let me send in a small amount of new product? If I'm reading that right, I would just suggest your tip from before of just actually reaching out to Amazon to see if you can increase your storage limits. I think I saw someone else in the chat said that they had actually done the same thing. So just reach out, ask Amazon, and there's a good chance that they'll increase that for you so you can send in more inventory.
Yeah.
Man, since I'm done with Better Call Saul, when is season 6 of $1 Million Case Study? Oh,
do you guys even want to see it? I don't know if we should even.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you want to see it? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, leave it also in the comments of the video, not the chat here. So once this video is up, if you're still tuned, leave in the comments, because once the video is over, we don't see the chat anymore. We just see the comments on the video. So we want to hear from you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen Better Call Saul yet. I've been hanging out to see the new season. I don't think you can be done with it though, because I'm pretty sure it's not. I don't think the season's over yet. I think we're like halfway through the season, but I could be wrong. I need to catch up on that one. But I appreciate the compliment of $1 Million Case Study being up there with Better Call Saul, because that's like one of the greatest shows that's ever been written. So yeah. Anyway, I digress. Let's jump into the next question here.
So this, I got one up here from Shauna. So Shauna asks, where can I find the FBA profit calculator that was used in episode 6? So again, let me show my screen here. And I'm going to pull up our listing here. So you can do this on an individual listing if you're curious about, the profit for that individual product, or when you're typing in a search term on Amazon, you can pull up the Jungle Scout extension and do this for all the products on that page. So let me show you how to do that here real quick. This is again our P pads here. And if I pull up the Jungle Scout extension up at the top, what it's going to show is a bunch of helpful information. But if I scroll over to this net column over here and I go ahead and click it, that's gonna bring up this FBA profit calculator. So what this does is Amazon knows our product weight and dimensions, and therefore classifies it as a large standard size product as the product tier here. And that basically goes into this FBA fulfillment fee here. Now our product price, because we're priced at $32.99, Amazon will take 15% of that, and that's what they call the referral fee. So whatever your price is, if we were to change that to $40, you'll see this referral fee increase a little bit once we were to recalculate our profit. So it went up from $4 to like $6 here. So let me back up real quick. What you can do here is enter your product cost. So this is your landed cost, right? So ours was about like $10.58, I believe, for us to get it manufactured per unit by the manufacturer and then sent into Amazon. So total shipping. So to get it shipped from our supplier's warehouse in China to the United States, and then shipped from the United States ports into Amazon, altogether cost $10.58 per unit. And from there, we can calculate our profit. This doesn't include, so this 110% ROI percentage, of course, doesn't include your operating expenses, like if you're using Jungle Scout, if you have a Seller Central professional plan, your FBA storage fees, a lot of people mentioned today taxes. So there are some other fees as well that don't get included in this. But when doing product research, which is primarily why a lot of people use this tool here, that's a rough estimate of your ROI. So you want to get around 100, preferably. If you're under, that's okay. If you're above, even better. So you can really mess around with your pricing here as well. When we first launched, we mentioned we launched at $20. Our ROI was 6%. So that's why we say we lost a lot of money during our first 3 months, is because we weren't really getting any return there. So this is a cool tool if you haven't used it already for product research or just for general, snooping around your competitors, seeing what they're doing maybe, if you can figure out their product cost. Great question.
Definitely. All right, so let's look at the queue.
Yeah.
Okay, so In a Minute asks, how did you go about creating your product video? For us, we created it sort of in-house. As you can guess, we create a lot of videos here at Jungle Scout. So we put together the video that you see on our listing. However, if you're not experienced with creating videos yourself, there are, you know, tons of services out there. I'm sure you could go to like Fiverr, or I'm sure you could probably find someone locally, or actually not even, doesn't even need to be local, but I'm sure there are like heaps of services out there. Yeah, probably just kind of like Google, look at some reviews. I know that you've used some different services before, I believe, to kind of create videos. So
definitely.
Yeah, probably just Google.
Yeah, you can use Google. There's also, if you're in the advertising console in Seller Central, I can't remember the exact name of it, but there is like a creative services section of companies that Amazon recommends or they've had, you know, good experience with. So you can use that. Will be a little more expensive, but they are vetted by Amazon. So that's a good one. But definitely if you're looking into Google, make it Amazon specific your search. So maybe like product photography for Amazon sellers, and try to narrow down the ones that specifically sell their services for Amazon sellers, because they're going to know the little nooks and crannies of, you know, buyer psychology and what to look for in a main image and comparison images. They're gonna know a lot of Amazon specific information that is definitely valuable.
And then on the video side, there are a few specifics. I think like I think it's like the length needed to be under 45 seconds for, well, actually, I think that was to maybe run that as a sponsored brand video ad. But, you know, if you want a video that can work on both, and you want to know that. And then there's a few little restrictions, I think, around like some of the text or what you can say in it. And you can't start on like a blank, or like a white frame or something. So there's a few little technical things that, you know, finding someone that's familiar with Amazon's requirements is a good idea. But I think there are probably like lots of options to get your videos made. Unfortunately, sorry, I'm not experienced with any myself. I don't know, maybe you could, if you're really doing it like DIY, I haven't used it, but I know that like Canva's doing video stuff now. Maybe you could use Canva, and you know, there are options if you've only invested in, say, product images. Your video is obviously more ideal, but there are videos that you can create. Like I see videos on there where people have used images and they've just got dynamic text and things coming up on screen. So even if you don't have like video footage of your product, there are still ways to get videos made to go on your listing or to run ads.
Yeah. Awesome. And before we get to this next question here, if you guys are enjoying this video, please hit the like button down below.
Yes, please do. Yeah, that lets us know that you enjoy the content, and you know, keep us making more.
And maybe share it on social media. Okay, so up on the screen here, I put up a question, Lenny. In a minute, also asked, so was sponsored product ads your main PPC ad, or did you use the other two types as well? So if I remember correctly, sponsored products is our main ad type that we use in terms of the amount of spend we used over the past year. It probably dominated about 60 to 80% of our total ad spend. But we did use sponsored brands and sponsored display as well. So
yes,
with sponsored brand, like Lenny mentioned, videos are super, super powerful. And if you're brand registered, I highly recommend getting a video out there, even if you're, again, like Lenny mentioned, using Canva to animate images. That's okay, as long as it's a video that is compliant with the sponsored brand video best practices and requirements, then that's great. So we did a lot of sponsored brand, mostly video. And then we also did a little bit of sponsored display. We're testing a lot of things right now. In fact, we have a very, very exciting video coming out on the enterprise channel. So if you haven't seen our enterprise content, just go to our homepage, our Jungle Scout homepage, and click on it. It's the cobalt, or it's the blue logo. So click on that, subscribe to it. We have a ton of advanced kind of strategies and reports that we do over there. And one of the videos we're super, super excited to release is this massive case study where for 1 month, we spent $10,000 and tested a whole bunch of campaigns. In fact, every single campaign tab you can actually run on Amazon. All the sponsored brand types, all the sponsored product types and targeting types like loose match versus close match versus compliments and the other one, I can't remember, substitutes. And then we did the same thing for sponsored display, which there's so many campaigns over there. So we're gonna release that video in like a month or two, but we're still actively doing the test. So it's,
we're still working on that one, but you'll want to check this out. So this will be a comprehensive case study that will, or at least in our experience, show which one is the best, like which is the best product type.
Yeah, that's gonna be a huge video.
Brand, okay, so I'm gonna remove a couple of these. Cool. Is your profit 20% or 10%? Initially, it was 20% because of the beginning loss. So
you want to pull it up over here, maybe?
Yeah. So we shared a couple of different numbers, but just to reiterate, the very first one that we shared was 8.5%, and that's including Well, that's from like the very start of selling.
Right.
It's not including our startup
Our
costs.
startup costs. And I probably wouldn't put that in the net margin. That's good to know. And
Yeah.
we could go back on our date range here filter and select that to bring in our startup cost. And we reported that because we want to provide full transparency down to the dollar. But when you're looking at like your operating costs, like when you start selling and then going from there, excluding startup cost, it's better to look at your net margin after the startup cost, so you see you don't have all these other costs that aren't, every single day or every week. They're not operating costs. So
Yeah.
this was again
Just
our
the
first.
recurring costs.
Yeah, exactly. This is our first year. Now, Lenny did this in the video here, but that's, again, over the past 12 months. If we take a closer look at, maybe we just use this guy up here and go, what should we do, year to date maybe? So from the last, like we're in, May right now, 5 months, our net margin is now 20%. So our ROI is 64%. That includes all our operating expenses. So that's a massive jump. We can actually do a compare to the previous dates here. So we can, compare this to the last 3 months. So our net margin increased about 7%, and our ROI increased 24% here. So we are very, very profitable today. I'm just curious now. Maybe we go the last 30 days and see.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of advertising again here. So this is still comparing the last 30 days. So I guess last month compared to 2 months ago, we're up 3% and 3% basically on ROI as well. So dipping a little bit on our net margin here. From year to date, only because we're doing this massive PPC case study test, and we're basically just throwing money at Amazon and letting our ACoS soar to the roof so that we can get information to report back to you guys on. So,
Yeah.
looking really good right now. I'd actually be curious to do like another date range, but
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, beginning really like January to March is probably like a good indication of how we've been, how we are doing today.
Yeah.
Because then as of April, we started spending heavily in PPC, but that sort of
Yes.
January to March, we've just been soaring along really, really well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I just pulled up a good one here. So the month of February, our net margin was almost 30%, and ROI was closer to 100. And that's because if you look at our PPC here, we only spent 1,200 that month. We were very profitable on it, but our cost was significantly lower than what we typically do. So basically, this was right around the time where we increased our price even higher to $32.99. And so with our target cost now, or price, we're really seeing good profit margins closer to 30%. So again, started very low, and then now we're looking really healthy now.
Yeah.
Great question.
Alrighty. Cool. I'm in Australia. Would you recommend me starting in Australian FBA? Good question.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the Australian sort of marketplace in a little while. I've certainly been interested to kind of watch it grow since they opened a few years ago. Yeah, I don't know the current state of it, but I would say ultimately it's up to you, but we generally have two recommendations, and that's to either get started in, if you live in a country where there's an Amazon marketplace, that can be a really great place to start because you understand the market more and what people are buying or they're not buying, and probably from like, setting up a company or a legal entity and the tax side of things, it's probably all gonna be a lot more straightforward if it's in the country that you live in.
Yeah.
So I would say, if you're in Australia, that may be a good place to start. What I would typically say to someone that isn't in a country that has Amazon is usually the US is the best place to start, or the next best place to start, because it is by far the biggest marketplace. So there's kind of, biggest marketplace, most money to be made. So that's why it is a very popular marketplace. I'd say either of those, whether you start in the US, I know lots of Australians like myself that live in Australia and sell in the US. So you can definitely sell in the US, or getting started in Australia is probably a good opportunity as well. Because the Australian market is still pretty much in its infancy, I suspect that there's a lot of opportunity to capture market share and be like one of the early adopters in using the platform still, and really building out a strong business there. So I think US or Australia could work.
Yeah. Great questions. Keep the questions coming, guys. We'll be here a little bit longer, so.
Yeah. Okay, so Danny C says, as a seller, I have days with 10 plus orders per day in Yeah, 10 plus orders per day. And then out of a blue, all of a sudden there'll be days with 0 in the middle and you can't figure out why. Yeah. So let's do it. I mean, it's obviously going to be hard for us to know exactly what to do without having more background there. I suppose I'd be asking, how long have you been selling? Like, are you still a fairly new seller, or do you mean, like, it's going to be different if you've only been selling like 2 weeks and you've been getting 10 plus per day is very different to I've been selling for 6 months or a long period of time and now suddenly I'm getting 0 when I've been averaging 10 per day. So that would be kind of good to know how long you've been selling 10 plus per day, like how consistently. I'd
also like if your product's seasonal as well. I'm curious like what product that is, if there was a seasonal moment there, a holiday even. And if you stopped anything, like if you decreased your ad spend, or you had a coupon running, or you increased your price. I'm curious what changed operationally as well. That could affect that as well.
Yeah, then I guess if you haven't changed anything and it's just like you can't pin down a variable, maybe it's not something seasonal. Or actually on the seasonality point, you could try going to Google Trends, putting in your main keyword and kind of see if there is some sort of seasonal trend for your product. Also, if you use Jungle Scout, you can do the same thing in Opportunity Finder, or even like Keyword Scout, and like type in the keyword and kind of see the historical search volume to see, does this particular product or keyword spike at a particular time of year, or has it kind of gone down at the moment? So those are some good ways to check seasonality. The next thing I would do is maybe go into like Seller Central and like check out a report of say like impressions or something to see like, is the impressions that you're listing getting, is that remaining the same, or have your impressions gone down? Because that would be one of the things to help diagnose what's going on.
You could also, Danny, if you're a Jungle Scout user, start using Rank Tracker. So what you would do is you'd input all your major keywords that are, people are coming to buy your product from. And you can, do it from like, you can just have like a list of your advertising keywords, you can have a list of your organic keywords, and you have one big master list of every single keyword that really drives your sales. And then you'll be able to see if you're dropping in ranking and when you do, or if you're increasing in ranking, and if you're, Amazon's not indexing you anymore and you're like, oh, what's going on? You can start to really diagnose from there and track it. So Rank Tracker is huge for this. Like sometimes, like, we'll even see sales, we're losing sales, and you go into Rank Tracker and be like, oh gosh, our main keyword, wash pee pads for dogs, we're losing it. Or we didn't have a badge that day, or we did have a badge before and now it's gone. So Rank Tracker and tracking your keywords, not just like through advertising, but organically, is huge. So Rank Tracker would be great for that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. There could be something there as far as like keyword rankings, because even someone that sells here at Jungle Scout, I know that they had a story not too long ago where for some reason Amazon just pulled their rankings, like they just stopped ranking or indexing them for top keywords, and it sounded like it was a mistake because this person reached out to Amazon and got it restored, but for some reason they just suddenly lost their ranking, therefore they're not appearing for the search term. So I think Rank Tracker is actually a really good one. Hopefully those couple of ideas help.
Yeah, I'll throw this one up on the screen. It's not a question, but this viewer really enjoys our content, so thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Purchased Jungle Scout because of this YouTube video, or maybe not this YouTube video in general, but
a YouTube video.
a YouTube video. So we appreciate that, guys. And we didn't mention this earlier, we should have, but in the description there's a link to the pricing page at Jungle Scout, where again you can find more information about our private training course, Freedom Builder Bootcamp, as well as just get a lot of information about Jungle Scout through the link in the description. So check that out, and thanks for the love.
Absolutely. All right, question from Superman. Why does Amazon set inventory limits? How is this limit set? Please explain. So even Superman can't get around Amazon inventory limits. So let's try to break this down. It can be a little bit more complex maybe to talk about like exactly how it works in the technical back end. I don't even fully understand it myself, but essentially high level, Amazon, of course, they offer their warehouses for you to send your inventory, and then they send it out on your behalf, right?
Right.
From their perspective, Amazon they don't want products just sitting in their warehouses. They're not designed to be storage where you send in inventory and it sits there for a year. that doesn't make them any money. That probably like loses them money. They make money when the inventory keeps moving, right? So from their perspective, they want sellers who have good listings that are selling product. That's what they're after. Really, the strict inventory, I guess there have always been inventory limits in place, but really strict ones came into place during the early days of the pandemic because, yeah, I guess, what were the reasons? But essentially they were prioritizing, I guess, essentials, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, all that kind of stuff. And so they needed to make sure that they just basically had to free up more room on their end. And they kept the inventory limits for a while and have slowly or gradually been increasing them. And then more recently, they've increased them even more. But essentially it just comes down to this idea that, yeah, they don't want slow moving stock in their warehouses. And so there's a score in your Seller Central called the IPI score, which basically means like the faster you sell, the more inventory you sell, the higher your score is. So the better your score, the more inventory limits they will give you. Is kind of the,
Yeah, you can find that, through, if you're in Seller Central, go to Inventory tab and then, or is it Manage Inventory? Or is it Inventory, one of those two? And then it's your Inventory Performance Score. I think that's what it's called. And you'll find that IPI score that Lenny's mentioning there.
Yeah. I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, like, there are a few factors that I remember we covered in a past video, but I'd say like the big one is like how quickly you're selling. So you want to like sell quickly, and then Amazon will automatically increase your score and therefore your limits.
Yeah, and Superman, you could go to our YouTube channel. We have an awesome video on this. It's really, really detailed. It's called like inventory storage limits, or how to increase your restock limits. So if you just, you can go to our channel or type in Jungle Scout on YouTube and then restock limits, you'll see an awesome video. It's pretty long, but it's definitely helpful. I would check that out for more information on this topic.
Awesome. All right, we'll go through a few more questions before we wrap up today. Jay asks, you mentioned keywords a lot. How much weight do you put on keywords compared to titles and A+ content and body text content, etc.? Yeah, so I guess there's like a couple of different things to look at. One is just the question of how important is it to have keywords versus having like a readable title? And then maybe the second thing, if you're just looking at SEO, where are the most important placements for your keywords? Where should we start?
I would say, keywords are obviously very important. There's that age-old battle of traffic versus conversion. So traffic would be keyword stuffing, and conversion would be writing for the human. And I think this is a total guess here, as we get further along in the next couple of years, it'll be better to write for the human. But especially when you're just starting out, you need to spell out to Amazon what your product is. So you need to, you don't just keyword stuff for keyword stuffing. I would in fact make your first sentence or two in your or your lines in your title very readable. So a lot of times, Amazon will recommend certain style formats for certain categories. So starting with your brand name, Jungle Creations, and then what your product is. Jungle Creations, washable pee pads for dogs. And then we, usually do like a comma or something, and then start using some keywords that make sense in a readable manner. So wash pee pads for dogs, reusable, machine washable. You basically start listing your benefits there, including those in your title and description as well. Even though you don't need to do that, once you have a keyword in your listing once, preferably in the title where there's more weight to it, you don't need to repeat it throughout the listing, but where it makes sense, you might as well. So you can also add alt text to your images, your A+ images. So that's huge. That's basically hidden information in the back end that helps Amazon, but also your back end search terms. So use that area for terms that you didn't include in your listing that customers might be searching for. So, you might put in, we say machine washable. I'm sure there's another term for that, or you can put your audience in there. So like, pets. There's so many other. I can't think of an example right now, but the backend search term is perfect for telling Amazon all the keywords that you didn't want to include in your listing. Usually it's like your target audience and stuff, but fill out everything in the back end. There's actually a section for your target audience, like who could use this product. And I believe we would just have pets in ours, or specifically dogs. So keywords are important, but also filling in as much as you can in the back end is also very important, so Amazon can properly index your listing.
Yeah, because I mean, some of those fields, we don't know for sure. Like Amazon hasn't always come out and said how much they weigh or how much what they actually use. But essentially, the rule of thumb is it's like if it's there, you might as well fill it out just in case it helps.
Yeah.
And in case, Joe, you were asking about how much it weighs between, say, titles and A+ content. It is widely believed that the title is the most important place to have your keywords. And then I'm trying to remember offhand. I believe that we don't know for sure how it plays into A+ content, but it's just a good idea to put it in there.
It's definitely a good idea to put it in there, especially on the back end of your images. Those are mostly meant for screen readers, so if people that have I think vision problems, they use the screen reader to see like, okay, that's a picture of this, but it's also information for Amazon. So include that. And thanks, Jay. You've been really engaging with us so far.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate your time here. Thank you.
All right. What one should we jump into?
Yeah, this is a good one from Brett. Ask, like you, we sold out of our first order in 2 months. Was a #1 release in the subcategory. Congratulations, that's awesome. Out of stock for 2 months, again like us. Ours was 3 months, and then back in stock now, but can't get the sales back to where they were. Help. So you will get there, and what I will say is it's just gonna take a little bit of time to gain your rankings back. If you're just starting out again, like you get that new round of inventory back in, I'd suggest something like what we did is you don't have to start new and lose a bunch of money. I wouldn't recommend that, especially if you're 6 months removed or a year removed from your product launch. But you do have to treat each time you come back in stock as a new product launch. So with a lower price or a coupon or a Prime exclusive discount, a lightning deal, heavy advertising, smart advertising, but heavy spend, you need to treat every time you come back in stock as a new product launch. So think of it that way and invest in yourself, even if it's losing a little bit of profit for the first 2 weeks to a month. Treat it that way, then your rankings will instantly bounce back up after that month. But it just will take some time. But again, the #1 kind of strategy here is just treat each time you come back into stock as a new product launch.
Definitely. All right, so let's see. Move that one. Okay, got a question here from Frank. Do you need to register for VAT when selling in the US if your turnover is below a defined threshold? Frank, my understanding is that you don't need to register for VAT when selling in the US. I believe that VAT is more applicable in the EU marketplaces, which is why it's not something that we've talked about. We were talking about sales tax earlier, which is something that Amazon collects. Therefore, as sellers, we don't need to report on the sales tax collected because Amazon is separately doing that. Whereas if you are selling in an EU marketplace, my understanding is that I think you are, as the seller, responsible for that, and it is something that you need to kind of track. But I personally don't have much experience with that, but yeah, my understanding is that you don't need to worry about that if you're selling on the US marketplace.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. We'll take a couple more questions here.
This is a question here about, I assume, a suppressed listing. So why sometimes when you type the product name into Amazon search, it doesn't appear, it doesn't pop up? So if you're typing in your brand name and your main keywords is not popping up, I'd actually first recommend typing in your ASIN. And if it doesn't pop up there, your product is active on Amazon, you have inventory available, and you can see it yourself. But you type in the ASIN in the search bar, or search for your product with the direct link. Actually, no, you want to do it in the search bar, type your ASIN. If it's not there, open a ticket, a case with Seller Central, and ask them why that is. Typically, it's just some suppression issue in the back end that Amazon can just remove once you bring it to their attention. Other times, it may just be a listing error that they've suppressed automatically. But if that's the case, just, again, search your ASIN. If it doesn't appear, and open a case with support. And they should fix it.
Awesome. Okay, last couple of questions here. Carl asks, I'm ordering 500 units of a standard large item. Which container size would be best, LTC or LTL? I don't know offhand. However, when you're creating, let's say you're using something like Freightos to get shipping quotes, Well, firstly, you should be able to find out the total weight and dimensions of your shipment from your supplier. So you need to get that information, and then basically you could take that to your freight forwarder, or I'm sure like on Freightos even, I'm sure there are like rules of thumb or guidelines there that essentially it's like if you're above a certain storage size or weight, then it's better to use one versus the other. I can't remember the numbers offhand, but there is guidance available that will basically tell you which is, which is going to be better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably the easiest way I can think to explain it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, last couple of questions here, a little broader. Is it worth to start selling on Amazon in 2022?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And it'll be that way in 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026. Just get started.
You heard it first here, guys.
Yes. Groundbreaking news. But yes, just get started. If you have the funds available, the best thing you can do, the worst thing you can do is not get started. So just get started. If you need help along the way, come to our channel. We have huge videos like how to sell on Amazon, our pillar content that you can watch, or you can watch very micro strategies that we talk about on the channel as well, specific to what you're needing to find. So how do you ship your product in the Amazon? We have a whole Seller Central series to help you throughout that process of starting on Amazon. So yes, get started, sell something, use Jungle Scout to find that product, make a smart decision, and do it as soon as possible. Yeah,
definitely. Still talking to people every day that are launching new products. Jake has even launched his own product this year. There's stats out there. I don't have it in front of me, but you can definitely see the increase in e-commerce or people buying online. So obviously there's increased demand for products. So there's definitely a huge gap there to fill. Now, we talked about brand registry before. Amazon's like rolling out so many benefits for sellers that now is definitely the greatest time to get started. So yeah, echo everything you said there.
Yeah. This is a good question. So Aloha asks, can I add/bundle a new item to an existing product without changing the ASIN? And the answer is yes. I'm not sure if this is a brand registry feature or not, but if you are brand registered especially, there's a feature called virtual bundles inside Amazon. And so I've done this personally myself. It has pros and cons to it. So what you can do is you could add a virtual bundle. So what that means is if you have two products on Amazon, two different SKUs, you can create a new listing that has both those in there. So it would pull from your parent ASIN, but it would just, you'd upload maybe a new image with both of your products together. So people know they're buying two things at once, but you do have to offer a little bit of a discount for bundling those together. It's usually like 5 to 10%, or some sort of discount. It could be $1, I believe even. So you can do a virtual bundle. Look that up online on Seller Central. They have great information on it. And then, so basically how it works is when someone buys your virtual bundle, Amazon will just go in their warehouse and grab product A and product B, put them in a box together and send them out to your customer, and everybody wins. You now have a sale that you're getting more back in sales, so higher average order value there, or volume there, and then the customer gets to save a little bit. So check that out. The only con I think is you can't advertise it. It's kind of upsetting,
right.
But hopefully they do add that in the future. I think it's still a beta test right now, but yeah, definitely check out virtual bundles. Yeah,
just to kind of add on to that, as far as changing the ASIN, I believe a virtual bundle would probably create its own separate ASIN. So it would be a different ASIN. If you're referring to, can I just like change the product that I'm already selling? It's probably best practice not to. Certainly you can't change the main product. I don't know if there's like an official ruling on this. An example that I've done personally in the past is taking my main product, and after a couple of orders, I've like added a small bonus item to it. I haven't fundamentally changed what the product is. I've just added something additional into the packaging, and I did that. I don't necessarily want to say that everyone should do that, because I don't know technically whether that's okay or not. But from my point of view, if you really don't want to be changing the main product. You don't want to be selling like, a water bottle and then like change the product to something completely different and just update the title and so forth. I don't think you could do that, but maybe if it's a small change that just adds a little more value to the main product, then you might be okay doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I'd suggest, what Jake mentioned, setting up a virtual bundle where Amazon bundles a couple of things for you.
Yeah.
Good question. On virtual bundles, does Amazon charge you twice for FBA fees and shipping fees?
That's one of the bigger benefits. No. Now, because your price is a little bit higher, so you bundle two products, of course, your price will be a little higher, then you do pay a little bit more in referral fees, to my knowledge.
Okay.
But I believe that's the only added cost there, because...
So is it typically, like, can it be higher than 15%? That's
no, I don't think it would be higher than 15%, but because your price is a little bit higher, that 15% means a little more. So like...
Oh, right. So the percentage doesn't change. I think you actually...
Right.
My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like you're just being charged as though this is its own product. You're not being charged the referral fee, etc., on these two different products with two prices. It's just basically treating this as its own product, and they're just grabbing the inventory from the other listings.
But your shipping should be the same, because again, they're just grabbing two products and shipping them together. They're not like, you don't have these two products sitting on a shelf together, adding more storage space. So I believe the only thing that should increase is your referral fee, not the percentage, but the amount you actually pay because your price is higher.
Yeah, so really you're not technically paying any more. It's just as though you're increasing the price. In fact, I think you actually save money because you're now only being charged a pick and pack fee once. If you were selling a keyboard and a mouse, you would get charged for each one of those separately for Amazon's pick, pack, and ship fee. Whereas now that they're bundled together, you're paying one pick, pack, and ship fee. So if anything, you might actually save a little bit of money per unit by having these two things bundled.
Definitely. Cool, maybe get to this question too. So Ricardo asked, is it on screen? Yeah, I noticed first few shipments on our end, the profit was low. Should you have 3 times more the startup cost for the reorder? What was your recommendation here? So we do cover this. Lenny made a bunch of mistakes. No, I'm joking. We both made this mistake of ordering too few inventory in the beginning. Now, as he added context to in the very, very beginning, we just ordered 500 units to test the waters. That's completely fine. I don't think that was a mistake. However, it kind of goes both ways, because it would be great to order more inventory in the beginning because you would be in stock a little bit longer, and we capitalize off that honeymoon period that Amazon sort of helps push your new product out into the marketplace. I know we actually got like one of like the Amazon Choice badges like within our first month, which is awesome. But we went out of stock, that obviously went away. Yeah. So yeah, we could have 3 times the inventory, but we should have done it the second time. What did we do? It was 2,000 was our second order?
Yeah, 2,000 was our second order.
Yeah. And
then pretty much we got 2 more orders of 2,000 really close together, because it was basically 4,000.
We did, we were limited by our storage limits. We talk about that as like we can only send in so much inventory to Amazon, so we were sort of strapped there. So it was a challenge or a mistake as well as a challenge. So in a perfect world and in hindsight, I think we would have, after our first order of 500, we test the waters. Okay, this is hot, it's working. Our second order, we would have ordered like 3,000 to 4,000. And if we couldn't put that all into Amazon, first we probably would have asked them to increase our storage unit level. Yeah. But if we couldn't put that all into Amazon, we would have sent the excess to a third-party warehouse to store it in the United States where we're selling. So that way, once we're out of that inventory, we can just fill it within a week's time, basically. Rather than what we did is we ordered 2,000 and then immediately had to order 2,000 more because we knew we'd be out of stock again. So in hindsight, probably should have ordered more the second time after we tested the waters.
Yeah, well, if you remember back to the graph, it's like we sold a lot in the first month, and let's say that first amount was like up here. So when we did order another 2,000 units, I was basing it off of the daily number of sales from the first order. However, what actually happened was when that next order came in, our first days were like way up here. So we suddenly were selling at like 2.5, maybe 3 times the amount we did before. So initially I thought 2,000, it's like, oh, that's gonna last us, I don't know, whatever it was gonna be like well, it was like 500 units for a month there,
Yep.
and then so 2,000 might have been roughly 3-ish months, or yeah, maybe about 3 months. But then suddenly, after a couple of days of like nearly tripling the daily sales, realized that wow, 2,000 isn't going to be near enough, and then ordered another 2,000.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem. Yeah.
So yeah, trying to think about our recommendation. So it kind of goes back to. Do you wait to have more money to get started versus getting started? I would say you definitely want to send in more if you can afford it. But then on the flip side, get started as soon as you possibly can. If you only have like, I don't know, $1,000 to get started, I'd probably still err on the side of getting started, even though you're likely going to run out of inventory and then have to kind of do like a little bit of a relaunch. I would personally prefer to do that than to just wait till you've got, $5,000 to, get started. And then on the other end, like, if you do have the money available, then I would spend more. So if I've got $10,000 there, I wouldn't say, I'm only gonna start with $2,000. If I've got $10,000 available, I would go all in. My personal philosophy with selling on Amazon is kind of an all-in attitude. I feel like you need to kind of go all in for it to be successful. If you try to play it too conservatively, it's just gonna take a long time for you to grow, or you mightn't ever kind of like, go to the top and be successful.
Yeah, you're purchasing an asset with your inventory. So you hopefully would be able to sell that at some point. So if you don't have, like a primed listing with great photos or photography, any type of videos, and you have all this excess money, then I'd prioritize that first, because without a good landing page, a good product images, it's gonna be very hard to sell. So if you have that extra money, I would prioritize towards your images first. But then absolutely, once you're locked and loaded, get your assets in place and start selling, as much as you can.
Alrighty, maybe we'll just take this one last question, and we will wrap it up for today.
And guys, make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. We'll be going live again soon. We actually just recently did a live product research episode, so we're starting this whole series where we do live product research with you guys live like we are right now. And it'll be like an hour or two long, where we're really just looking for products to sell on Amazon live. It's very honest, very transparent. And it's awesome. We're gonna start doing those and they'll come out of the blue. So make sure you're subscribed to us and you're following our community posts to see when those are coming out. Follow us on Instagram and all of the other social medias as well. But yes, definitely subscribe so you see that and can engage with us live again in the future.
Absolutely.
This has been fun.
All right, last question from In a Minute, who asks, does sponsored brand and display make sense if you only have one product? So I think that, what would you say, Jake? Because I know there are some campaigns that I don't believe you can run with one.
Yeah, with sponsored brand, there's certain campaigns you can't run. It's mostly just the product collection set. So there's 3 different types of ad types within sponsored brand campaigns. You can run product collection, and you can run a sponsored brand campaign. So sponsored brands, there's just one you can't there. With sponsored display, you can run any type of campaign type. I would actually recommend it, at least testing the waters. So I would run a whole bunch of campaigns with sponsored display if you can afford it. You'll find some aren't profitable at all. I would let it run for at least a month, or maybe there's like a dollar equivalent there, like $1,000 that you're comfortable with, and test out which ones are working. And then pause the ones that aren't. And then again, once your listing is in better shape where it is converting better, you have a lot of reviews, your bestseller ranking is higher, then maybe turn them back on, because you'll discover that some campaigns you turned off are actually, they can crush it again. So you just have to give it enough time to test and dive into the data. But I would run sponsored display product targeting personally. There's 2 types of product targeting there. There's ASIN targeting, exact same as a sponsored product campaign. And there's category targeting, which could be hit or miss. With category targeting, since it's so broad, you can refine it a little bit and say only advertise against products with 4 or fewer stars, and they're not FBA or they're certain price point thresholds. But ASIN targeting on sponsored display is awesome, I found. You can even do audience targeting as well. Just test the waters with sponsored display. You can have lower bids and budgets. But I would definitely recommend it, especially the product targeting type within sponsored display. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Again, give us a thumbs up down below if you've got any value from today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to subscribe as well for all of our great future content, and we'll see you all in the next video.
Yeah.